And for now, I guess we can go with what is going on with system specifications, man.
If Batman Arkham Knight came out in 2025 instead of 2015, it would need probably 16 gigabytes of RAM and an RTX GPU to run. And besides being a comment under my video, it's also pretty damn true. You've probably all noticed how system requirements for games have been skyrocketing in recent years.
I mean, they have. But I remember caring about system requirements when I couldn't run a game. I remember back in the days with my trusty GT420. I remember looking at the game, looking at the system requirements, and just crying. I played GTA 5 on a GT420 on 800 by 600 in 16 FPS. I finished the game 4 times. The story mode, because I obviously didn't have money for GPU, let alone buying the game. So, you know. And now, when I actually went out and bought a PC that can run pretty much everything, I play nothing. It's sad, man. It's sad. You know, just no.
Of course, games are improving, acquiring a multitude of new technologies that require a lot of power. But is the way modern games look really worth the fact that they can only run on a video card that costs several $1,000s? The system requirements of modern games are...
I mean, the costing several $1,000s. I think people are actually a bit too fucking, just a bit too annoying. Man, okay, you bought a 4090, you bought a 5090. Play the game and shut the fuck up. Like, for me, the fact that I can run the game is enough. Like, it doesn't matter. I played through the entirety of Red Dead Redemption on the GTX 1050 Ti. It sucked. It lagged like crazy. I did it. I played through GTA 5 and 20 FPS. The game could run. I dreamt of 60 FPS at 720p. Didn't matter the settings. And people now buy a 5080, put it in. I want everything ultra 4K. Wow. I mean, on the 4K debate, I am a bit blind, as you may be able to see. So, the 1080p for life. Maybe one day I'll get a 1440p monitor. But for now, with a 3070 Ti, 1080p, everything runs. Everything. Too bad I play nothing.
Growing 5 to 10 times faster than the...
But yeah, gamers are a bit too... I don't even know the word. They just like whining. Oh, I can't play the newest game that came out today on my $1,000 GPU. Everything maximum. They are not building... Motherfucker, shut the fuck up.
Average hardware performance. Let's take Skyrim and Starfield for example. Of course, Starfield is much more technologically advanced, but is it so much so that the difference in requirements is 20 times greater with similar gameplay density?
No.
I'm sure many of you have seen the trailer for the upcoming Deus Ex remaster, and I'm not going to talk about how shitty it looks and why anyone would even bother making it, but the craziest thing here is something else entirely. I was simply stunned when I found out the system requirements for this
a GT620 to play the game, probably the old mode that could run on a fucking graphing calculator. But requiring a 2080, what? Why? I mean, it's probably some half-baked ray tracing solution like the Quake RTX demo thing. I don't know what it was. It's probably something like that. Why even put it in? And the problem is not that they decide to put that stuff in. The problem is that they just, haphazardly drop kick it in there without actually thinking about, okay, should we add this? Yeah, no, bro, just push it out. That sucks, bro. You probably don't need a 2080. You probably never will need a 2080, except if you want better light interaction, ambient occlusion piece of shit.
Prehistoric piece of crap are. While the original game only needed 16 megabytes of video memory, the remaster, which isn't far off visually, needs an RTX 2080 and 16 gigabytes of RAM.
Again, it needs.
Mental?
It doesn't need that.
Serious? I want to remind you that Deus Ex Mankind Divided 2016, which is an incredible game, by the way, only required an old GTX 660 with 2 gigabytes.
Hey, the 660 can still run stuff. You can still play Valorant probably on a 660. If you can get Windows 11 drivers for that, but you can still do it.
How is it possible that this outdated remaster requires more powerful hardware than what you see on the left? It all looks really strange. It seems that the crazy system requirements for modern games exist.
Again, he is doing a bit of the grift. They don't require. If you want everything actually maxed out beyond reason, then it's required. It's recommended. No one is forcing you, bro, to buy a 2080 to play that stuff.
Not only because of the excessive use of various technologies, but for some other reason. But what if the problem isn't even graphics? What if your computer isn't getting weaker every 6 months, but the system requirements are simply being artificially inflated for some reason? And most importantly, when and why do they stop making games better and start just making them harder to run?
When the processing power actually became available, like back in the fucking day where you could barely, run anything, people needed to be creative. And now you have just excess processing power and you just throw stuff at the wall. Will it run? Bro, there's like, this shit is not optimized. It runs. They do that. And that sucks, but, I still have hope for Rockstar. I still hope in the same way that I was able to play GTA 5 on a GT420, which is a card from 2011 with technology that I think came out in 2009, and it was shitty even for then. It was basically a display adapter and not a graphics card for playing games. And it worked. The game worked kinda. I still hope I can run when GTA 6 comes to PC eventually. I don't know, bro, 2028, 29, 2030. I hope I will be able to pull out my 1050 Ti and run that shit. I so hope. Probably not though, because it will probably require 8 gigabytes of RAM.
I stumbled upon some truly shocking. Oh, people in suits are once again deciding what you can and
I smell a sponsorship.
can't watch. Screw this hack.
And it's NordVPN. Yeah, go use his link, subscribe to NordVPN.
Let's go back to 2019 when Call of Duty Modern Warfare was released, which ran smoothly on a GTX 970 and looked better than most modern shooters. Realistic lighting, complex materials, and stable 60 frames per second.
Yeah.
Overall, the game looked great, and I would even call it one of the most beautiful games in the history of the franchise. Only the mission where we clear House of Terrace with night vision goggles can be called the visual peak in the entire history of Call of Duty. But 6 years have passed and we see Black Ops 7, which already requires an RTX 4080, but looks significantly worse.
I wouldn't say it looks worse.
The models are simplified, the lighting is flat, and even the animations have become less lively. Maybe they added new unnecessary technologies or just increased the number of polygons.
I mean, yeah, it's again art style versus reality. A game with good creative direction will always outshine a realistic game. You don't always need to strive for realism. You need to strive for what looks good and for what will be serviceable to you as a game designer. So, yeah, the fully path-traced Cyberpunk looks better, but everything on low still looks fantastic, so,
But overall, the visual component of the new Call of Duty clearly looks more outdated than it was 6 years ago. The IW engine remains the same, but now has additional layers of post-processing, ray tracing, enclosed rooms, and dynamic effects that no one—
Fuck post-processing. I always turn that shit off. Fuck. What do you mean depth of field? What do you mean bloom? What do you mean if I wanted my screen to be blurry, I would smear Vaseline on the screen and gouge my eyes out with a fucking fork, man. Fuck that.
Notices, but now every player pays for them. The game consumes 3 times more resources to show fewer details. The new Metal Gear Solid remaster repeats the same story. A remake of the 2004 game that requires an RTX 4080 and 16 gigabytes of RAM and still drops below 60 FPS. The reason is not even the graphics, but the architecture. The old DirectX 11 code was simply wrapped in modern RTX shaders without rewriting the geometry processing system. The result is—
Oh, whoa. That will require work, man. That actually requires work. Wait, stop there, bro. We don't have the man for that.
The CPU waits for the GPU, and you wait for it all to stop lagging. The remake does look cleaner and more visually appealing, but does it really need such—
It looks like a PlayStation 3
system
game.
requirements? I would also like to mention
could have been
Doom: The
pulled
Dark
off on the
Ages.
PlayStation 3.
ID Software, once synonymous with optimization, now recommends 32 gigabytes of RAM. The reason is technically logical. The ID Tech 9 engine stores multiple layers of textures and shadows in memory at the same time to avoid pop-in, which is when objects or textures suddenly appear in front of the player's eyes because the game didn't have time to load them in advance.
I have GTA installed on another machine on a hard drive. It's GTA enhanced. In that PC there is a 4th Gen i5 and a 2060 Super, my old 2060 Super. The game runs at, above 60 FPS, everything high, but the loading, it will take 5 minutes to load because it's running on a slow 3200 RPM, even slower probably, a laptop hard drive from like 2011. So it sucks, bro. Like,
Advance. But this means that the computer processes scenes that you don't even see. In other words, what used to be solved by precise code and memory limits is now simply solved by, why should we bother with our code when we can just specify inflated system requirements to ensure that players don't see any artifacts? And finally, Sid Meier's Civilization 7 released this year. A typical turn-based strategy game, which visually has hardly changed from previous installments, now somehow requires a much more powerful computer.
it honestly looks like a mobile game.
The game now renders everything in full 3D with dynamic lighting and volumetric effects, even when you look at the resource table. As a result, you need an RTX 2060 to play a game that should run on an office laptop. Let's be honest here. Today, most games are not becoming more complex. They have simply ceased to be economical. Data is duplicated, caches are not cleared, and engines keep scenes in memory that you will never see. We clearly see a loss of control over how many resources are being burned, and perhaps that is why we see such crazy system requirements for new games. But
no, you see, Unreal Engine is the culprit. Developers are becoming lazy. I have one favorite grifter, bro. My favorite grifter is this guy. This is my favorite grifter. I love watching this guy. I like watching him explain technical jargon I probably don't need to understand for no apparent reason whatsoever. I love him. Yeah, he is a grifting piece of shit, but doesn't matter, bro. I will watch every video of his.
This is our final.
Even though here,
Find
I don't know what he's talking about. He probably doesn't really know what he's talking about. For what I was able to find out, yeah, it doesn't matter. He's my favorite grifter.
Then here a logical question arises. Do developers have a real opportunity to reduce these requirements?
Yes.
High system requirements are not the result of technological progress. They are the result of a strategy in which no one is interested in making games efficient. When hardware becomes more powerful, the industry simply stops counting every megabyte, because now there is no need to. Video card manufacturers have to sell a new generation every single year, and every time a game comes,
Nvidia is selling a new generation every single year because they are greedy pieces of shit and they made so much fucking money from the AI bubble that they don't care about GeForce anymore. They actually don't. They release just, new architecture, but pretty much the same rebatched card year after year. They still keep the fucking 8 gigabytes of RAM on the entry-level GPUs. Just because, man, like I went from a 2060 Super to 3070 Ti. Yeah, the 3070 Ti is way more powerful. But if I move to 1440p in like a year, I will have to go and buy a, I don't know, bro, something with probably minimum 16 gigabytes of VRAM and this and that, and it will probably have to be like a 4070 Ti super mega duper probably. It sucks. I mean, I was looking at a 3080, but they was too expensive for me.
Comes out that doesn't run on the old card, it's the best advertisement for new GPUs. Game engines also work not for efficiency, but for versatility. That's why we see Unreal Engine 5 becoming so popular, and it doesn't matter that it's too heavy for the hardware. Developers need to support everything, any formats, any effects, any scales. That's why there are always dozens of subsystems working inside a modern game that no one even sees. Memory is not spent on the player, but on the variability to support everything at once. This is beneficial for developers. They no longer have to deal with low-level optimization. The engine does everything for them, and the studio just ticks boxes in the menu. This saves months of work, but it kills control over how much the game actually consumes. Every year, this looks like progress, but technically it's a breakdown of technical discipline. And then comes marketing. At the presentation, everything has to look cinematic, even if the player doesn't notice it. That's why the final version leaves in the blur, shaders, and tons of post-processing, everything that looked good in the demo. And even when the developers see that the game is barely breathing, no one risks fixing anything or even optimizing it. This is how next generation games appear, which look like the previous generation but consumes like the next 3. And when the developers say that the game is not designed for future hardware.
What is bro fucking doing? And yeah, game is designed for future. Crysis was designed for future hardware, my man. Fucking the new Assassin's Creed could have probably run on the PlayStation 4. Bro, The Last of Us 2 ran on a PlayStation 4. Red Dead Redemption 2 ran on the PlayStation 4. And you can't make games for the PlayStation 5, man, fuck you.
Mind, it just means that it has not been optimized for the present. This has consequences. Today's games are not scaled to the player. The player has to scale to them. And the average PC, which a few years ago was considered a gaming PC, now simply cannot even run modern games. This is convenient for the industry. For the players, it's expensive. And for the game itself, it's devastating. Because the fewer restrictions there are, the fewer ideas there are. Optimization has always been about more than just...
I'm really not hopeful for the new Witcher. I still have to finish the Witcher 3, but I'm not hopeful. It will probably be a good game, but seeing Cyberpunk still to this day, I still can't finish Cyberpunk, bro. I enjoy the game. It's an okay game, but it tried to be too much, and it ended up being nothing at the end. I'm just disappointed.
Speed. It's about design. It's about understanding what to show the player and what not to show them. But the most interesting thing here is that it's not just gamers who suffer from this. An entire layer of developers is disappearing because of it. Previously, there was a huge space between indie and AAA, the so-called AA segment. Teams that could make a game for $10 million and still look no worse than a blockbuster. Now, this segment is simply being washed out because the price of entry into the industry is determined not by talent, but by whether you can afford Unreal Engine 5, motion capture, and a fleet of RTX test cards. Technologies that were supposed to simplify development have...
What happened? What happened with Minecraft RTX? What happened with Minecraft RTX? Nvidia and Microsoft and whoever. What happened with that? They haphazardly released that. It didn't even work on every world. It required shitty resource pack that wouldn't have the time. It had multiple half-baked stuff. DLSS couldn't even be turned on if the RTX stuff was not on. Why? It was all on Bugrock, so fuck Bugrock at the end of the day. It's a shitty game. But why couldn't you just allow me to turn you made DLSS integration. You integrated that into the game. Let me run it. But no, it was a publicity stunt for the release of the 30 series. Was it for the 30? I think it was for the release of the 30 series. And it just fizzled out. The new stuff, vibrant visuals they're doing now, it's just normal raster, so I don't know, bro.
Have actually made
I was
it
actually
a privilege
hopeful
of large
for
studios.
the
As a
RTX
result, the industry
in
is
Minecraft.
becoming monotonous. It's no coincidence that gamers experience deja vu. Every game now goes through the same algorithms. So when you launch a new shooter and it seems like you've seen it before, you really have seen it before, just under a different logo. We are so used to upgrading our hardware for the sake of new worlds, but it seems that we are now upgrading only to keep those same worlds from freezing. And when a game requires more resources than it gives emotions, it is no longer a game, it is a benchmark.
Yeah, did anyone actually play the Indiana Jones game? I see that thing only in benchmarks. I'm still hopeful for GTA 6 though.